Mercy is a character you play because you don't want to care about mechanical skill, you want to pay less attention to the game, and you want your DPS to do the work for you. I'm here to argue the opposite, and also to give you the understanding and mindset you need in order to properly climb on this character. The idea of her being an AFK hero has pretty much corrupted every single casual Mercy player at this point, and now that these rumours are spread, it's really hard to go back. This character requires perfect knowledge of your team's health and positioning at all times. She requires as much knowledge of the enemy's sightlines as any other character. She requires a very clear thought process through a priority order that swaps continuously and instantly. And most importantly for this guide, Mercy is a character that requires you to unlearn the most obvious way of playing her in order to even start getting close to her skill floor. So the reason why I'm talking about Mercy and not any other character is precisely because she's hard and unintuitive and, quite frankly, really interesting to talk about. So without delaying you further, my name's Ralph and I've been coaching Overwatch for about 6 months now, and this is my basic priority order that I go through when I teach how to play Mercy. So the first thing I teach people is the most obvious and objective mistake that is incredibly easy to catch during a VOD review. It's easy as hell to fix, and it's incredibly impactful on your win rate. Use Valkyrie faster. Valkyrie follows a very simple rule, which is incredibly important to Overwatch as a whole. And if you ever want to play the game seriously or competitively, or even just climb up, you're going to need to learn this extremely soon. The first team to find a solution to a team fight generally wins. This is reflected in the incredibly high win percentage after the first pick in any team fight. But people tend to gloss over why this win rate is so high. The win rate isn't entirely this high just because there's no counterplay to being one down in a game of Overwatch. It's this high because the team that gets the first pick generally are the ones that have set the pace and found their solution faster than the other team. Solutions to a team fight can be anything. A good angle with Chri and a movable defensive position, basically any ultimate. But the most important thing in your solution is that it comes first before the other team find a solution to the engagement. And just as a very clear example of this point, the more ultimates that are used in a team fight, generally, the less impactful the next ultimate becomes. One grab can quite easily lead to a team fight win without any counterplay. But the second ultimate that's used to defend against that generally doesn't bring you back to a completely level playing field. And most counters in Overwatch, which neutralize the first instigating ability, tend to leave the defending team at a disadvantage. That disadvantage might be a pick called by the first ultimate, or it might be a disadvantage like being badly positioned for the rest of the team fight, or being drained of abilities and resources such as shield health. There is a way of thinking about it. If you have 5 ultimates versus 4 ultimates, the team that has 5 ultimates doesn't really have that much advantage against the team with 4. Not really. What really matters is whoever finds a solution to the fight first. And in the same way, if a team has 1 ultimate and the other team has 0, that team has a massive advantage in the team fight because they have a way to find a solution for the team fight and the other team doesn't. There's a simple fact that rings true the more you learn about Overwatch. The team that finds the first solution tends to win. So with this in mind, and to quickly define it a little bit more, the game becomes framed not in terms of win conditions, which is something people talked about for quite a lot of time, and instead becomes framed in terms of solutions. The difference between these is that win conditions are basically implies that it's going to win the game for you, whereas a solution can be approximate, kind of like we're going to try this gambit and put our stuff behind it, and maybe it's going to work out for us, but if not, you know what, no biggie, we can find a different solution down the line. And that's really where the definition between win conditions and solutions come in. Window gives your team a chance to get picks and a clear solution to work from. Nano Boost gives your team a very clear solution in terms of supporting the nano boosted target in order to win the team fight. Coalescence gets picks, or it provides your team with enough resources that they can find their own solutions. And Rally just provides so many resources that, Jesus Christ, can you just find a solution? I provided you with like 300 health, just go in and do something. These ultimates are all act as solutions, don't act alone, and they aren't actually win conditions in and of themselves quite a lot of the time. But it gives your team a clear path to victory when they might not have one already. And as we cover, the team with the first path to victory, or the first solution, who funnels their resources down the solution, generally is the team that wins. Something, monkey strong together, and if we all press the W button at the same time, at least we have a path to go down, a solution to follow, instead of all kind of like being scared at the gate, or nobody going in. And quite honestly, even if this costs you 4 or 5 seconds of your Valk timer, which is 15 seconds, a really long time, then it's worth using early. Valkyrie provides 2 different solutions to your team. It gives you a long-lasting sustain like Rally or Coalescence, and more importantly, it gives you a chance to get easy, rip-off, cheap kills with a 30% damage boost that surprises somebody when they're out of position. This is actually what makes Valkyrie a good ultimate. It's the ability to find solutions to teamfights for essentially free just by damage boosting. And more importantly, it gives you the ability to find these solutions faster than the other ultimates that might require either more setup or being in a certain position or your rest of your team being ready. It doesn't require any of that. You can just press it whenever the enemy team's overextended and you're doing damage onto them in order to have a chance at getting a kill, finding your solution early, and ending the fight. And even if your Valkyrie doesn't find a kill or a solution on its own, what it does is having it up gives your tanks and DPS enough resources that they can find their own solutions faster than the enemy team can find theirs. And almost even more importantly, the earlier we use Valkyrie, the less damage or random spam or stuff like that our team's taken. So we are actually at liberty to use more damage boost. We're at liberty to pump the damage, force solutions, find a way to win the fight, instead of just sustaining our team and waiting for them to find the solutions. Remember, you've always got a second healer. They can do most of the healing. You're finding a solution by damage boosting with your ultimate. So I keep saying faster and early, but really, how early is early? How stupid do I want you to get? Well, there's almost no limit to how aggressive I want you to be with this. If there's a fight you think you can win, and the enemy team can no longer back out, and you have more than one person to affect your damage boost onto, you probably should have already pressed the Valkyrie button 2 or 3 seconds ago. And to be clear, that is what you're looking for. You're looking for any fight where you can affect more than one person with your damage boost, where the enemy team can no longer disengage from the fight just by walking away. So for instance, if a Winston on the enemy team jumps into you, use Valkyrie, pump the damage, he's dead. There's nothing they can do about it. If he jumps in at the wrong time without primal up, you pump the damage, you have found a solution to the teamfight. This is generalizable. The earliest possible opportunity where there is a point of no return is when you should be using it. If you save it for literally 2 seconds, it could be the difference between a 50-50 teamfight where everyone presses Q at once and nobody has any idea what goes on, and we have the ult fiesta, everyone uses ults, yay, ult time, and then everyone presses Q and we flip a coin and decide who comes out on top and nobody knows. Or you can get a kill early, you can find a solution, basically stop the fight dead. Now the question after that is, after we use Valkyrie as early as possible and we pump the damage for as long as we can, damage starts being put into our team, and the question is whether we're going to go for healing or go for damage, and where the trade-off between them lies. Most of the time it's going to be just you want to prevent the deaths of the people on your team, but there are plenty of situations where you can find a solution better from preventing a death by pumping the damage and getting kills onto the enemy team. So the question isn't which should I do, it's which one is more likely to find a solution to the team fight. Sometimes your solution's going to be providing sustain to your team forever. Sometimes your solution's going to be I provide as much damage as humanly possible, keep on damage boost until the cows come home, and screw our team because we found our solution anyway. But this part gets contextual. So just remember, you're looking for a solution, and this might be where you might need a VOD review. Now, I went a little bit in depth for Valkyrie. Calm down, it's going to be okay. We're going to keep going on to another point. You've learned how to do Valkyrie now, okay? The easiest thing on Mercy, most impactful thing you can do, that was very important. Now, the second thing I teach when I've done Valkyrie cooldown and they know how to use it, but The Mercy player is poking herself in random directions. She doesn't seem to know what her place is, she doesn't seem to know what her role is, and you know what, she's just doing stuff. Is normally about team comps and how healer solutions and healer compositions work in Overwatch. Now, don't lose me here. Mercy is the most interesting character to actually talk about this on, so you're not going to die of boredom. So healer comps in Overwatch tend to include one core throughput healer, as I would call it, or a flex healer, as higher level players tend to call them due to the role they normally fill on a team, and one off healer. Now, the purpose of the off healer is to spot heal people on really good angles. So flanks, high ground, short off angles, stuff like that, stuff that's interesting, something that's a little bit more than just standing on main. They allow the team, especially the DPS, to take duels at a massive advantage. Or they allow them to stand in very strong places by continuously providing them healing so that they can't be pushed out of them by chip damage. On the flip side of that, the purpose of the throughput healer is to do as much raw numbers into their team as humanly possible. They are the resource guy. They are the guy that pumps their team full of stuff and does a little bit of damage to the enemy team when they can, in order to just charge their ultimates as fast as humanly possible so that they can cycle these powerful healing throughput ultimates, Nano, Window, Coalescence, and Valkyrie, off cooldown. They want to use them as fast as humanly possible. All of these throughput ultimates, as I covered, are very good proactive solutions to teamfights, and that's why we want to cycle them so ridiculously fast. But this is why Mercy's interesting. She's a character that sits somewhere in the middle of these two roles. She has a healing throughput, which is lower than any of the throughput healers, so she's worse at just raw pumping the numbers, and she has an ultimate that's just a little bit lower quality than any of the throughput healers as well. She also just has no real cooldowns that aid her in throughput healing. Mercy can be paired with other off healers, specifically at very high levels or organized play, where people focus their comps more towards finding solutions to a team fight instead of generically good stuff. But in most double off healer situations, you'd just be more comfortable or more effective just learning how to play Baptiste, Ana, or Moira to the same efficacy or level that you play Mercy. At the lower levels, she's still able to fill in for the throughput healer role, because quite frankly, throughput healers generally just require aim, and they require a little bit more than just Mercy. Quite frankly, when you're at the very low bottom tier, you can fill Mercy in for anything and just cycle her Valk off cooldown and get enough value to climb yourself into about gold. But that isn't what you want to be doing on this character. Her way to gain an edge over other people isn't always throughput healing, and it isn't always off healing. It's being able to fill in for either of these roles in the middle of a team fight whenever the hell she's needed to do this. And if you don't pair her with another throughput healer, she can't do this. She can't do the stuff that really makes her good as a character. All of this is to say that apart from at extremely high level or extreme poke/dive comps where you're not necessarily taking as much damage, Mercy is an off healer and should be paired with one of the three main throughput healers, Ana, Baptiste, or Moira, and if you don't do that, you really are missing out on a lot from this character's kit. Right, number 2's down, so we've gone through Valkyrie and your role in a team. Third off, I'm going to do 2 quick side lessons before we go into the nitty-gritty of proper Mercy play, and these 2 back up very well what I just said about throughput healers versus off healers. The first is ultimate charge. Ultimate charge in Overwatch works off a 1-to-1 ratio of healing to damage, so every time you do a point of damage to the enemy and it gets healed up, that healer gets 1 point of ultimate charge. Every single character in the game has a different amount of points in order to charge their ultimate meter, and for every 1 second of playtime, you get 5 ultimate points into your meter for free. Passive generation. Now, the best distinction between these 2 roles, throughput healer and off healer, comes when you realize that there are plenty of times when doing healing as an off healer actively works against the solution your main healer, your throughput healer, is trying to find. Especially if your ultimate has no chance of being active this teamfight. If you take their healing and they're not able then to use their cycling Throughput ultimate into the next team fight, not only are you just being neutral or 50-50, you're actively throwing. If your other healer will get their ultimate by the next team fight and you won't, you give them the healing. And on the contrary, if you can get Valkyrie into the next team fight and they can't, then you should be actively trying to steal as much healing from them as you can. And that is Throughput healing. But there's a third situation, where neither of you are likely to get your ultimate this fight, or both of you have the ultimate this fight. And in these situations, what you got to do is make a judgment call, first off on the differing ult charge percentages, and then on the general fight as to whether Throughput healing or off healing and spot healing is going to be more effective for this fight in particular. So pressing the tab key and in particular keeping a very, very, very strong idea of what the other healer's ult percentage is when you're playing Mercy is extremely important. The fourth lesson I'm going into is a little off-topic bonus thing that I like to talk about quite a lot of the time, and that is damage boost and the efficacy of just using it as a good ability. Now, this is the damage boost is a dirty cheat. Damage boost cheats you out of the 1-to-1 healing to damage ratio by just generating free ultimate charge out of nowhere, and it's the only ability in Overwatch that can actually do it. Damage boost gives your DPS 130% of the normal damage they'd be doing, because naturally they're doing that much damage. Their healers get to heal up 130% of the damage they would be doing because they heal that much damage. And you as Mercy get a cool 30% extra ult charge out of nowhere, pulled from thin air, just from being damage boosting. So every single point of charge that you land with your damage boost is literally just extra ultimate charge points put into your economy for free, generated by the gods of Blizzard. If you can get 300 damage boost in and then heal that diva who's AFK waiting for healing a little bit later, you've actually just generated a cool extra 90 points for free out of nowhere. It's free, just do it. Like, this is why damage boost is good. Now that we've discussed damage boost for a bit and I've chatted shit about that, we're going to get to the very, very interesting part of Mercy, where things get a little bit more complicated and things get a little bit more contextual. Let's talk about the two modes of Mercy, off healer and Throughput healer. So the big thing, the priority order for an off healer in Overwatch is to first keep yourself alive, because we can't do healing if we're dead. The second thing is to get your friendly healer to full health. Yes, full health. And the third thing is to get your friendly DPS to full health. I know, groundbreaking stuff. I'm glad that I'm covering it. I'm glad that you're learning stuff. Both the friendly supports and the friendly DPS go all the way up to full health, not 80%, not 90%, is because without proper confidence, and this is the same from bronze all the way up into the high ranks, maybe around masters, they will essentially do nothing. And the wise wisdoms of Papa Ralph, if you are damage boosting a DPS who is doing a 0 damage, you are doing 30% of 0 damage and 30% is 0. Obviously, you can tailor this to your DPS players if you trust them or if they're actually good, but unless you're with very disciplined players, as a general rule, they go all the way up to 100. Supports also, especially the Throughput healers, have cooldowns such as Nade, Baptiste's Shift, and Orb from Moira that they will use incorrectly or inefficiently if they're not constantly healed up to full health. And all of these characters, if they are forced to do any self-healing, are necessarily using it less optimally than they otherwise could be. By the way, while we're here, this is another thing that crops up over and over in every single VOD review, and it's generalized across every single Overwatch player. Pay attention to your other healer. Please pay attention to them. If you don't know their health for like 2 seconds, you have already fucked up. You should always know their health bar. You should always know their positioning. You don't lose sight of them for a second. Something you gotta learn. Okay, so I've talked about that for too long. We've got both supports and DPS to essentially full health unless we trust them a great deal. Now we need to find a solution to the team fight, and this is the fun part of Mercy. Either the solution is to put more resources into your tanks and allow a brawling based or main angle solution, or the solution is to go on an off angle, support your DPS at the wings, and allow them to find their own solution by either keeping them in the angle or forcing them to get kills or allowing them to take a duel at an advantage. Now, I'm going to be very specific. When I say further supporting DPS in their angles, I do not mean damage boosting them. I mean supporting them. And supporting them generally takes the form of making sure they're fully, always within a moment's notice, being healed whenever they take damage. Because every single time, as we already covered, when a DPS takes damage, they get a little scaredy cat and they start running behind obstacles and they don't want to fight, they don't want to have fun, and they don't want to enjoy themselves with you and find a solution. So keep them in their angles, please. Get them at full health in that 1v1 fight with a 55 HP beam stuck up their ass. They couldn't possibly lose that fight. Force them to find their own solution. But most importantly, remember, Mercy doesn't pocket by damage boosting. Mercy pockets by allowing her DPS to stand in completely bullshit places where they have no business being, and keeping them in those angles until they do work. And it shouldn't be a fast thing, and that's why we don't care about the damage boost. They should have to stay there for 10, 15 seconds sometimes until they find something that can be done, some kind of kill, some kind of solution to the fight. So this is another teaching point that comes up over and over again in the off-healer category. Mercy players at low ranks do not even start trying to find solutions. They are often a little bit too overwhelmed by the game, and the amount of choices you actually have to make per second to play Overwatch effectively is just incredibly high. This is one of the games with the highest decision density that you really have in video games. Sometimes they don't have the resources mentally to make the correct choice and push out the angles, but having this concept, it might not be one that you can sticky note to your monitor and make use out of or do immediately, but you've got to have it somewhere in your head in order to actually climb. Now, I don't want to scare you with the dark mode theme and little Peggy down there, but quite frankly, the sun was going down. I was getting a little bit glowy in the camera, so we're going to go on to dark mode. Keep going on. Let's talk about Throughput Mercy. Now, the priority order of Mercy as a throughput healer is not that far different than Mercy as an off healer, except after she's topped up her off healer, because normally that is the most important character to keep alive, her job, instead of becoming topping up the DPS and making sure they're effective, becomes just doing as much stuff as humanly possible in order to charge her Valkyrie as fast as possible, use it as soon as possible, and win the fight through that. Whilst the three throughput healers should ideally be prioritizing their healing in exactly the same place as the off healers, because they are objectively the best places to put your healing, all of the three regular throughput healers actually struggle to heal on extreme off angles because either missing shots or healing on that off angle would sacrifice the throughput healing onto the main angle, onto the main tanks. Also, all three of the throughput healers are completely reliant on their AoE cooldown abilities like Nade, Shift, Lamp, and Orb and Moira healing, and Baptiste right healing while we're doing that. So most of the time these throughput healers forgo healing the DPS at extreme angles in order to have more uptime of their healing, do more damage, do more healing, and get their ultimates faster. But when Mercy's main healing, interestingly enough, through enough attention, skill, and good positioning, Mercy can actually get extremely high healing uptime without really sacrificing too much throughput healing through changing your beam. And essentially there, the only downtime is the downtime between you letting go of left click and holding it on to the next person sometimes. Now, obviously, the exception to this is when the flankers go a little bit further away and you can't do them at the same time as the main angle, and sometimes you have to make choices between your off healing on the side angle and just sticking on main angle, and those are interesting to talk about. But remember, when throughput healing on Mercy, you aren't necessarily healing the main tanks. You're just being a greedy girl and soaking up all of the ult charge you could possibly get to charge Valk as soon as possible and use it to find a solution. Keep in mind that throughput healing and main healing isn't always about the resources and just pumping as much into your team as possible. Sometimes it's just about prioritizing as much ult charge you could possibly get because you need to find your own solution to fights. So we're kind of like, we found ourselves to the crux of the matter, haven't we, at this point? How do you decide between throughput healing, over here when you're doing as much healing as humanly possible, sucking up the ult charge, expecting to win off Valk on the next rotation, maybe the next fight, maybe this fight, but you're just doing as much healing as possible. Maybe it's just all you need in order to win the brawl. And off healing, finding a solution through pushing out really strong angles with your DPS, spot healing people up to full health so there's as effective as humanly possible, and all that kind of good stuff. Well, obviously, I've given you enough context that you should be reasonably good at making your decisions already. If you're at 80% Valk charge, obviously you might forego healing people at an off angle in order to get Valkyrie and find a solution to the team fight through that. But that's also a call as to whether Valkyrie, when used late into a fight instead of early, is going to be enough to find a solution despite the fact that the enemy team might have already used ultimates. Is flying to that Chri and making him alive a good choice? Well, if my aim is to get Valk through decent healing, and let's say I'm at 80% Valk charge, is he contributing to our win condition? Does it put me at extra risk to go over to him? Does it really compromise my solution that was using Valkyrie in order to go and heal him, or is it still applicable after that? Now this is the hard stuff, right? It's really hard. Right here are the edge cases and the interesting parts of playing Mercy. The moving parts are as follows: you and your friendly healer's ult percentage, whether the person would die if you don't fly to them, and whether their death might be inevitable anyway, maybe we just don't care, whether someone would be less effective without the healing and might find a solution if you do spot them with a little bit of healing, whether they've already found their solution, they need to be supported, and if they are supported, they actually would do something, you never know, whether they've actually found their solution, and if you do support them, they might actually find a way to win the team fight. What is the risk to you? What is the downtime required in going over to heal someone that you otherwise couldn't get to without gliding over that? And are they taking a duel? Maybe they just need 5% more. And what are the resources like on main? Do we just need a little bit more healing into our Reinhardt in order to find a brawl win condition? Has Anna thrown a big healing nade in, and we need to double up on the healing for that and just pump as much resources as possible? Is that a condition in and of itself? Well, now my friend, we have found a place for VOD review. Okay. This whole thing has turned out a little bit heavier than I originally intended. I'm gonna be honest. I find it a bit hard to cut through the weeds without really pulling them out with me as I walk through them, because all of these things on Mercy, they're so intertwined together, and really in order to do one, you have to do the other, and you may as well do justice to the first to do justice to the second. So far we talked about attention and how hard Mercy is because how much stuff she actually has to process per moment. We talked about healing comps, we talked about healing priority, and we talked about damage boost. And obviously we did a large part on Valkyrie at the start. So I'm not going to bore you for that much longer. Let's talk about something a little bit lighter. Let's talk about Guardian Angel and just the general idea of what you should be doing with it. These are problems I see all the time in people in VOD review, and you really need to start thinking about these in order for them to not hold you back. First off, stop pressing the damn button off cooldown. If you're in a safe place and you're able to sit there and do your stuff. You don't necessarily need to always be flying to someone. Every single time you fly to someone, you strand yourself for a whole second at the end of it. And when you're stranded for a whole second, that's 50% of your uptime where you're actually vulnerable. Please just use it when you need it. Don't use it because it's there. Please actually learn how to play Pharmacy instead of just assuming that it's easy and assuming you can do whatever the hell you want, because you can't, because it's actually quite hard to play properly with Pharmacy. You need to practice, and you need to use your Guardian Angel movement to make sure you can stay behind cover. Maybe like the whole thing where you Guardian Angel to someone, press the spacebar, hold the S button, and then go like in this cycle. So they're here and you just cycle yourself around in this like area so that you don't go past them, you don't go past a corner. Very important to keep yourself in cover. Learn to use super jump. It's a critical part of her kit, but don't be an idiot. Do not use it like Baptiste boots. It is not there to protect you apart from when you otherwise couldn't do anything about it. And if you use it continuously at the low ranks, what it's going to do is it's going to hide the glaring mistakes in your positioning. That will be, you know what, they're just going to shoot you at a higher level regardless. So it doesn't matter if you gain 50 SR now, you're going to get that taken away from you, or you're at least going to find a skill cap somewhere. It should be used to reposition to good places, high ground, stuff like that you could not otherwise get to because they have no Guardian Angel targets onto that. Not used for a dodge. So apart from that, I think I'm done. Yeah, I think I'm good. So what we got over today. First off, stop sleeping on Mercy as a character. She is a very, very high skill cap character that requires a lot of input, a lot of awareness, and a lot of effort every single time you play her in order to play her properly. Second, use Valk faster. God damn it, use Valk faster. Find your solution, do the team fights, win the team fights with an ultimate. Damage boost is ridiculous. Please use it. Third off, solutions. Winning through solutions. I covered that for a massive area because it was very important to explaining why Valkyrie had to be used fast. You need to find solutions in this game. It's applicable to all characters. Just find a way to win that doesn't rely on other people doing stuff. Otherwise, you won't climb at any reasonable rate. Number 4, Mercy is an off healer. She should be paired with one of the 3 main healers unless you're on a specific comp or you're playing at a high level of play where your comps are set up to do one specific thing instead of just being general, all buffers, kind of like do everything comps. Number 5, do not steal your friendly healer's ult charge. If you don't need it, you don't need it. If it's not going to be around next fight, you should be actively avoiding doing healing quite a lot of the time. Number 6, damage boost is free money. It's free. Why not use it? Come on, damage boost. It's literally free. Just use it. The more damage boost you get in, especially if your other healer is doing the throughput healing, right? They're getting ult charge through the healing. You're getting ult charge through the damage boost. No, win-win, right? Even if you're not doing your healing, you're still getting your charge. So just try and avoid that. Try and avoid stealing the healing so you can do the damage boost. Number 7, the priority order for both the off healer version and the main healer version of Mercy, and a little bit of discussion of which one you really need to be doing at different times. And now this is the main fun part of Mercy. This is why she's so fun to play, because these are the things that cause you to have to make 10 decisions a second. Like, the priority order changes constantly. Somebody will take a chunk of damage, you'll have to make a snap judgment as to whether you go there, and this is why it's so good, because once you've learned it, it's muscle memory, and it's just interesting, and you can look back through it and say, you know what, probably shouldn't have gone to that person, but I did it at the moment because I had that in my muscle memory. Let's fix that for next time, and that kind of stuff. And then the 7th one, doesn't really matter, just a couple of notes on Guardian Angel to try and make you respect the ability a bit more, both flying to people continuously and constantly super jumping. Now, I stream Sunday through Thursday on twitch.tv, and I'd love to see you there. A link's in the description if you actually enjoy any of the things here. If you want to upload a VOD review to me, ideally look at this first, and if you're doing a Mercy one, you won't need to come to me with asking a couple of the questions because they've already been answered. Now, you have seen Peggy. She's absolutely beautiful, and that's the main bonus of the streams. Obviously, nobody comes for me. People come for Peggy. Peggy is my beautiful, darling angel kitty cat, and she is always, well, she's sometimes there on stream, and I'm getting a new camera in order to be able to see her, which is going to be amazing. But thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming and watching this for a couple of minutes. At least I might have helped somebody in general. This isn't your regular Mercy guide where I just tell you, you know what, your beam heals 55 healing per second, and your Valkyrie beam heals for 60. I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to teach you how to do Guardian Angel super jump. What I am here to do is correct your thinking and actually make you climb, because that is what I really care about. I actually care about improving people and helping them, because these things like caring about solutions in Overwatch are going to matter so much more than anything else you do. Thank you very much. My name's Ralph. See you around. Have a lovely day.